From Shine Cancer Support, this is
Not Your Grandma's Cancer Show.
This is not your grandma's cancer show.
Hi, I'm Tatum. Travelling after a cancer diagnosis can bring with it a whole new range of practical, logistical, and sometimes emotional implications. So today, I've got three great guests with me that are going to share what travel means to them and how they've worked around some of the more daunting aspects of leaving the country. So I'm going to start today finding out from everyone, what's your favourite place that you visited before getting cancer and then after getting cancer? And let's start with Izzy.
It's funny, I think that no matter where I go, it's still my local beach in Dorset.
And Will.
My favourite place was Japan. I went there a very long time ago in a gap year before uni, and delicious food, beautiful landscapes, fascinating culture.
Lovely. And Renee.
Mine has to be Tonga. I spent a week in Tonga swimming with humpback whales. Pretty unique experience.
Wow. And what's your favourite place that you've been to since diagnosis? Again, starting with Izzy.
I went to Portugal earlier this year and that was magic.
And Will?
I went to St. Lucia 2 years ago, and that was just gorgeous. Absolute paradise.
Magic and paradise. And Renee?
For me, I think it was Romania. When we spent 2 weeks in Romania last summer, a mix of beach and mountains and city, and it was great.
Oh, after hearing all of that, I'm even more excited. So let's get going.
This is not your grandma's cancer show.
Not Your Grandma's Cancer Show.
Renee, can you tell me what was going on in your life when you were diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed with rectal cancer in October 2023 when my daughter was 8 months old. So I was fully in the midst of being a new mom. I had kind of just recently gone back to work. So I'd been back at work for about 6 weeks. But my symptoms actually started soon after giving birth, and most all of them were pushed off as postpartum. But after months and months of kind of not being heard, I went privately and I got a diagnosis within about 30 seconds of my specialist appointment. Yeah, but my life at that time, it was all about figuring out how to be a mom, and then it was figuring out how to be a mom with cancer. So
Yeah. And I imagine right after having a baby, like your body has already changed so much. So to know that something additional was going on and being heard, it sounds like you really had to advocate for yourself with that.
Yeah, I really did. I mean, my partner, he was really great at pushing me to advocate for myself. And I had some other good friends as well, too, who really pushed me to get answers. So
I'm glad that you got them. And so for you, what was your first time venturing away from your medical team after that diagnosis?
So it wasn't actually that long after. It was actually that Christmas where we took our first trip. So when I first got the diagnosis, I was diagnosed as stage 3, and they planned chemo to start in January of 2024. But I had surgery first, and then luckily after the surgery, they took out 17 lymph nodes, and none of them were cancer. So they said, you know what? We don't think you need chemo. So they kind of, dusted their hands and said, right, you're free. And we had originally had plans to go to France to visit my husband's family for Christmas. And we had canceled them, obviously, when we got the diagnosis. But then after the announcement that I didn't need chemo, we thought, let's just go for it. Let's do it. Let's go see family. And for me, it was really great because it just felt like something normal. It felt like we were going to do it anyway. And if we hadn't, we would have been sitting at home and twiddling thumbs.
And what was some of the things that you needed to consider with that trip?
When you have the lower anterior resection surgery like I did, it really changes your bowel habits. So a lot of the things to consider are a lot of what I'm going to say today is around pooping, because it's like a lot of my life right now. Figuring out where toilets are all the time, like finding the confidence that you have that control and can make it to a bathroom, that sort of thing. It was a lot of learning and building that confidence in myself that I could venture out further and further.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that wanting to be in the vicinity of a bathroom at all times, depending on how you're traveling as well, right? Like, how did you fly? Did you drive?
So that first trip we drove, and my husband was really great. He actually spoke with the colorectal team before we went, and he said, okay, we want to do this trip. What should we consider for Renee? And they said, well, I would kind of avoid really long car rides. And so he planned the trip where we would do a few hours at a time. So at the first trip, we drove a few hours and stopped in Bruges for a night. And then we stopped in Luxembourg, and then we continued on to France. So that was great. But I've taken lots of other trips since then where we've flown. So I think the craziest story for me was we actually went to South Africa for a month this past December. And on the 12-hour flight, I went to the toilet at least once an hour. And then my daughter at the time, she also had to be changed like 8 times. So it just felt like it was 12 hours of poop for me. But it was...
It's almost like you could have just reserved that bathroom just for you on the plane. Like it should have just had your name outside.
I pretty much did, yeah.
And speaking of your daughter, how has it been for you going to disabled bathrooms or going into bathrooms with changing rooms? Because it's double the need that you have as a new mum and then just having the surgery that you had.
Yeah, but I have to say it's like kind of this benefit in disguise having my daughter, because in some ways it gives me a bit of a free pass to go into airports or public places. The disabled toilet is also often a changing room for babies. So even if she didn't necessarily need a change, sometimes I just grab her and run with her. And that's kind of like my free pass card to get to the toilet. So it's in some ways been really helpful. And then I mentioned one of the places we really liked going to was Romania. One random fact about Romania that I didn't know till we arrived was that in the country, any family with a kid under 5 years old basically gets a free pass to the front of any queue. And so if you're queuing at the museum, if you're queuing for toilets, if you're queuing for a hot dog stand, anything, you basically just get pushed to the front of the queue. And so it was really, really beneficial for me as well, too, if I was kind of in a bind and needed to find a toilet quickly. Also, just grab my daughter, and everyone said, yeah, go, you go to the front. So
amazing. And what was what's your daughter's response been to all of this?
She's funny because, I mean, I guess like lots of little kids and toddlers, they kind of just attach to you and go with you everywhere. So she goes with me to the toilet all the time. But as a result of it, too, one of her first words was the French word for poop. So she said basically mama, papa, and caca. So those are her first 3 words.
So is your partner French?
Yeah.
So that's why family is there, because I think that's the thing about traveling, right? So the traveling can involve visiting, it can involve family, it can involve adventure, finding new things. Like in Romania, how lovely they are to families with small children. And it can also be that connection to yourself. What role has travel played in your life prior to being diagnosed?
It's been a huge part of my life. From the time I was a kid, my parents actually lived in Botswana in Africa for years before I was born. And my mom used to live in Thailand and my dad lived in Bangladesh. And I grew up seeing these photos and videos from them and their experiences there. And I just thought this was normal life. This is what you do. And so when I turned 20, I actually moved to Cape Town, South Africa, and met my husband, and we moved to Malaysia and then moved to New Zealand and now the UK. And it's just... yeah, it's just I feel like it's just part of who we are, and what we do is living different places and experiencing different countries. It's felt really good to me to be able to continue to do that after cancer, because it is such a huge part of who we are that it makes me feel normal again. It makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel like this is something I haven't lost in the midst of an experience where you feel like you lose so much.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can really hear that. And I imagine that you're kind of a master traveler at this point. That checklist of what you need to bring, and do you have your workarounds for insurance and things like that, and what to pack and getting information on different countries and what you need?
So insurance-wise, I am kind of lucky that I work for a really big company and they provide us travel insurance actually that has like very few exclusions whatsoever. So I've been able to use that for the most part when traveling. As far as like packing and what to bring, I actually found a YouTuber who she had the same type of cancer as me, diagnosed at nearly the same age as me. And she has made these amazing videos, like very informative about her experiences, also her experiences traveling. But she has like some great tips. And one of them is just, it's very practical. But so as I said in the beginning, it's just hard. You have a new bowel learning to be a bowel, and accidents happen. So she just has like what she puts in her accident kit of what to take with you. But for me, it's things to just clean yourself up if you do have an accident. But for me, like having that little bag also just gave me that confidence when I was traveling that like, okay, if something bad happens, like I've got what I need. I've got what I need to take care of it. Like I can figure this out.
Renee, are you recovered from camp?
Our daughter, she actually really likes camping, so we've gone camping a number of times with her. But so yesterday evening we were coming back, and she was like, "I don't want to go home. I don't want to go home."
Oh, that's so sweet. This is one of the reasons that at Shine, kind of that sharing of information, that sharing of what it is that makes you feel a bit more confident when you go on holiday. We share that in our Facebook group, but in our programs. And Izzy, I'd love to welcome you into the conversation here. How has it been for you hearing from Renee?
It's been brilliant, and thank you so much for sharing your story, because I think that's like a massive thing in itself. And yeah, there's just so much to navigate, both like logistically but also emotionally. So thank you, Renee.
How was it for you, Izzy? What was travel in your life before getting sick?
I mean, probably something that I just took for granted. Do you know what I mean? And didn't give it really a second thought, other than working to save up enough money and then go. But no, it's always been something that's been quite important. I think I definitely feel energized by being in new places, with new people, exploring. So travel was a good way to do that.
Can you tell me a little bit about what was happening in your life when you were diagnosed?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd been living in London with friends for 2 years, working for a food waste charity and really loving it. But then the feeling of restlessness came in. So I needed to itch that scratch. And so I got a sabbatical from work so that I could go and spend the summer bouncing around the fields and festivaling, which is what I've been doing kind of previous to being in London. So no, it was a really special summer and so busy, very wild and fun.
So you're working at festivals?
Yeah, on catering food stands. And I've been doing that for quite a few years. So it was, something that I really enjoy and a great way to, go around Europe and in the UK as well. Yeah, it was actually when I was in Portugal at a festival that I found the lump in my breast. It took a bit of time to get to the doctor. And so I was diagnosed 3 days after getting back from the last festival of the season in Croatia. So in a way, it kind of felt like it was meant to be because I had taken the leap and sort of asked for this summer to happen. And
So you've had this amazing summer, you're in Croatia, you find a lump, and then as soon as you get home, you find out that that's cancer. And what was your thoughts at that point?
I think it's an extraordinary thing how you can be so well but have cancer. Do you know what I mean? I have been working 12-hour shifts, dancing the rest of the time, living to an extreme as such, and physically, and yet I had cancer inside me. And so I think that was quite a lot of dissonance in a way of trying to understand that.
And what was your first trip after being diagnosed?
3 weeks after my last radiotherapy session, which was the final part of my active treatment, me and Mum went down to Cornwall, and it was so funny. We've been talking the whole way through treatment about the gorgeous beach holiday we go on, somewhere like Greece. But Cornwall was actually perfect. It was 2 hours away from home, which meant 2 hours away from the hospital. We had such a nice week, swimming in the sea, eating nice food. I think my confidence was really low at that point, and it was too scary to leave the country. I kept getting neutropenic sepsis towards the end of chemo. And so my world just got very small, staying very much within the vicinity of home. So I think the fear of when that comes on and you need to get in so quickly. So I think that had definitely taken its toll sort of psychologically, as well as physically.
Yeah, especially when you have had sepsis and, you know what it's like to have to rush back in, to be, like you said, even 2 hours away. That's a hurdle to overcome, let alone leaving the country. So did you find that trip was the beginning of putting back together your confidence?
And you've looked forward to something for so long, whatever that thing's going to be, and me and Mum going away was that. But it's a step-by-step process, definitely, and it was like baby steps. It's building up bit by bit, like meeting yourself where you're at rather than trying to do too much too soon.
Because we really want to do that, right? We want to go racing back into like our regular life and our regular things sometimes. Finding those kind of smaller steps can sometimes be not necessarily always come really naturally to us. And so after you did the Cornwall trip, what was your next one? Where did you go from there?
I signed up for Trusted House Sitters, and so I think I did a 3-day house sit in Bristol, which again is not far from me, but that was by myself for the first time. Then I did like another house sit in London with a friend, went to visit a friend in the Netherlands, and so took the train out there. It was this gradual build-up, going either a bit further from home or trying things out by myself and then being independent again. But I was giving myself quite a hard time within your recovery when you think that you should be better than you are now, further down the recovery process. And so I think when it came to the new year, I thought that I should be ahead of where I was. But some friends then suggested they were going to Morocco for a surf trip. And it was perfect. So it meant that we all left the country together, had 5 really special days. And then they came back to the UK and I stayed. And then got the bus up to, northern Morocco, the ferry over to Spain, and then kind of kept getting buses up and then into Portugal. And then I volunteered for 6 weeks on a permaculture farm. I had been saying, I'm going to go to Costa Rica by myself for 3 months. And that would have been, it wouldn't have worked. It would have been too much too soon.
It's hard not to sort of should on yourself, especially because, there's that, like you said, I should be doing this, but our energy has been often so depleted. I know in the Facebook group where people were talking about this subject, that was something that people were finding quite hard, was going away on holiday or going away to adventure and to travel and to see new things, only when they got there not feeling the same, like they weren't quite the same person as they would have normally have been, and having to take things a bit more easy when they're not used to that. And again, when you're young, you're not necessarily used to going, I'm just going to take my time, I'm just going to lay back a bit. And it sounds like, particularly with you, you're quite a fierce adventurer, I imagine. Was it more the emotional impact of being away, or was it kind of the physical, energetic part of you that was okay, 3 months in Costa Rica would have been really hard?
I think both. I mean, at the time, I was still very limited by fatigue. So that's the physical. And I think also I've been living with mum and dad for a year and a half. I completely depended on them. They'd been amazing. And it was really hard to leave them actually, and the safety of home. And I guess also then emotionally having to, factor in rest every day rather than being up on the go the whole time. But no, I think the whole thing it was very cathartic, and it felt kind of one era was ending and then the next was starting. I spent a lot of that time in Portugal just bursting into tears, and it was the sort of feeling so much gratitude for being on that side of it, but also the weight of everything kind of hitting, and I don't know, it's almost only once the storm is over that you can acknowledge how hard it had been.
I know that you did one of the Shine programs, the Reset program. How was that experience for you?
Oh, it was amazing. I can't believe, it was just so well, structured and delivered, and it was so good to meet other people. It was a 6-week online thing. That was actually at the start of the year when I was having, probably my hardest time, sort of emotionally. But no, we're still in contact on the WhatsApp group, and everyone's really supportive. But no, I think just hearing other people's experiences and how similar they are to actually the things that are hard, you know.
That thing of like being in Portugal and things hitting and knowing that you're not on your own with that. I'm really glad that you found the programs and were able to kind of share that with other people, because yeah, that shoulding voice can be really tough. And actually being around other people the same age as you who are also having to take it a bit more easy, also finding that impact, that hit happening all at once. I'm also cognizant, actually, of Renee kind of traveling with her husband and her child, and you living with your mum and like traveling with your friends, that often when we're traveling, we're not doing it on our own. And I'd love to bring Will into the conversation. Will, do you have someone that you often travel with?
My main travel buddy for the post-diagnosis years has been my mum.
Tell me a little bit about why your mum is so great to travel with.
Well, we're very good friends, and she's very good at kind of getting things organized, covering potential contingencies, that sort of thing.
And is your mum looking to adopt? Because having someone looking at potential contingencies and logistics sounds pretty amazing. Can you tell me when you were diagnosed and what was happening in your life? You have been on the podcast before. I'm really happy that you're back, but it'd be really lovely to hear again, what was going on in your life.
At that point in time, I just finished a master's degree. I was just kind of about to start my proper career, and then had a huge seizure at home. That led to the MRI scan, which discovered I had a brain tumor.
When did the idea of traveling come into your mind after finding that out? So was it something that you really wanted to get back to? Was it something that, you weren't as fussed about? Like, what did it mean to you?
Yeah, it's not something I was thinking about at first. I was really fully focused on the disease and my own well-being, and I didn't feel like I had to be abroad. But over time, you get that familiar sense of wanderlust. You want to get back into that sort of thing, just like every other thing you consider part of your normal life.
Yeah. And so what was your first trip?
About a year and a half after my diagnosis, went on a trip with my mum and brother to Rhodes.
And how was that for you?
It was pretty good, but, well, it was a lot like our family holidays growing up, because I had my mum and brother there, and it was the same kind of format, sort of beach resort that we used to always do. But I did find, to my disappointment, I couldn't get the same kind of enjoyment from it at that time. Partly that's because I was really at the mercy of my symptoms a lot more in those days. I didn't know how to deal with it. I hadn't found ways to deal with them as effectively. There were still good times, though.
So there you are on a holiday, kind of, you were saying the same format with your mum and your brother, but that enjoyment wasn't quite the same as it had been before. So I imagine there's kind of a sense of loss or frustration with that, but trying to take the good bits at the same time. If someone has ventured out and it wasn't quite the way it used to be, would you say trying it again might work? Like, how was that for you?
Trying it again, but maybe, tinkering at it, figuring out why it wasn't as good, and is there anything that you could change there before, trying the same thing again.
Yeah. And how was it for you hearing from Renee and Izzy?
Really interesting in terms of very familiar sort of feelings and dynamics. Like, first of all, that sense of, oh, what the hell, let's just go for it. Versus the sort of apprehension about sort of, will it be okay? Is this going to be okay with me away from my hospital and so forth? And then there's like the major concern of just not having facilities or items you might really now need while you're in transit, but also the confidence that can be gained by preparing for all of that. Just having your things, your plan ready to go.
You went to Sydney not too long ago, which was a big trip. What were some of the things that you had to consider or put in place in order to make that happen? Or what was your mum planning to make that happen?
This time, I was the one who did most of the planning. And it had been sort of 7 years on from the Rhodes trip. I've got a lot better at knowing what I need these days. And also, when I say what I need, knowing that I need that stuff and that it helps me to be a sort of normal-ish person in terms of my ability to do things. So I did a lot of planning, from checking local restaurant menus to see which confirmed with my now quite restrictive diet, understanding the kind of barriers I might face Australian customs, and thinking very carefully about my packing too. I made a big list that I would amend well in advance of the trip whenever I would sort of visualize the trip and think of something else I might need, add or subtract, and then packed all sorts of things in my carry-on bag and luggage, again, for those contingencies. And fortunately, I got to a place that, in terms of managing my health, that I was able to know if I had these things with me, I'd be fine.
Kind of that before and after of the Rhodes trip, kind of a lot changed in that time. So yeah, kind of acknowledging that with time, you start to build those contingency plans. And I'm thinking of Renee's bag that she heard about from the YouTuber, that actually knowing what you need is a big part of that change in confidence and making it more fun, I imagine. Did you have anything when you were entering Australia? You were talking about customs, and customs always scare me. Even when I have nothing with me, I just look shifty as I'm going through. I think it's a hangover from when I was little, going to Ireland and my auntie sticking a bottle of alcohol in my bag and then having me walk through customs. I still have this going through. Did you need a letter from your doctors kind of explaining what you were carrying with you?
That was sort of the main thing in my mind. I'd been told by people who had been before, which was not, I hadn't, that something might get confiscated. So I did a lot of looking online and looking at what exactly are the restrictions. They have restrictions on substances like food, certain supplements like that, and I was bringing in all sorts of spice powders, specialty teas, which I could have tried to get hold of once there, but I mean, they're very hard to, in some cases, quite not possible to get hold of once there. So I just thought, without these, I won't be able to go about my days normally. So it's better I bring them, and I'll bring what I kind of think will make sure I can get past that customs thing. First of all, looking up each item online, will or will not this be a problem? And then for my medications and my supplements as well, I requested an appointment with the GP and got a letter from him that just kind of, it didn't say much, just said, here's a cancer patient, he needs these things, so that they know I'm not just bringing them in for my own convenience.
Right, yeah, to get that little bit extra understanding. One of the tips that I saw again in our Facebook group, which is a closed group that our listeners are very welcome to join, for Shine Cancer Support, and it's for people 20 to 49 with cancer, is that having a letter that kind of explains your condition, what you might need, and some people even recommended getting it translated. I know with Australia they do speak English, but one of the tips I saw, that actually getting it pre-translated into the country that you're going to's language can make such a difference. And even if you never use it, even if you aren't stopped in customs or what have you, again, it's that little bit less to think about. So it'd be really great to actually sort of get from each of you what your top tips are, or sharing what place you get your information from. And maybe we could go to Renee first.
There's a Facebook group for people in the world who've had my same type of surgery. And to be honest, it's where I find it's so helpful. Like if I have a question, I say, before we went to South Africa, I posted on there. I said, okay, I'm flying for 12 hours. Like, what are your top tips for, controlling anything? And it's great. And people give lots of information and their experiences. So I found that really helpful to find your community and use them for support and asking questions. Yeah. And then my top tips, I guess, as well, is kind of like managing expectations as well, too. It's, I just have to be patient with myself and not expect that I can, do everything the same way that I used to, but that's still okay and can still have a great time and explore new places, but just differently.
I really like that, both of those, because I think, the information that you sometimes get from your team is quite different from other people going through the same thing that are able to, give you that kind of like, okay, this is what you need, pack this in your bag. And actually people sharing recently, like, which insurance providers to go with. And if someone's going, I'm thinking of going without insurance, why that might be tricky as well, because that is something that I had a really sharp learning curve, because I never really thought about insurance. And it wasn't until I did a podcast episode about it and I realized, how risky going to America with no health insurance was. I was like, really shouldn't do that.
I'm American and I do not step foot in America without insurance.
I was known to take some risks like that. I went 7 years living there with no health insurance. I do not recommend the insurance provider. So she started insurance with. She told me in no uncertain terms not to do that. And also, why not to exclude your cancer from your insurance? Like, there's some policies that it seems like would be a good idea. It's like, well, if you're skiing and you break your arm, that would be covered. And she said, actually, even with things that don't seem like they'd be cancer related, the insurance companies can say that your bones are weakened as a repercussion of your treatment, or, this is actually, you were more susceptible to falling over because of your medication. Being really upfront with all of your treatments and everything actually can make a really big difference. Will, do you have some top tips?
Yes, so in terms of searching and doing things beforehand, obviously I use things like the official government website and search engines all the time. One good thing is YouTube. There's travel bloggers who will do videos on virtually anything you can think of, like what will you get for this ticket on a Virgin Atlantic flight, or what does the hotel look like, what does this particular restaurant look like. That can give you a much greater sense of what you will or won't need to expect or won't need to bring or prepare for before you go in, actually seeing the thing from that person's point of view.
Again, it's like kind of finding your community, finding your people to get that information from, and that community can be in all kinds of places. Finding other people, whether that be in at Shine Camp that Renee, I know you just went to, or a Shine program, which Izzy did. Izzy, what are your top tips?
I think I took a pretty hefty list of questions to my consultants and doctors ahead, and it was something that I kind of been building up over the year. So I started asking the questions quite early on, which maybe also helped manage expectations and stuff. And also, so I have like a monthly Zoladex injection that is given by like a nurse at your GP surgery. So I got them to, like, I can now self-administer because I asked them to start teaching me. So I did it with them about four times, did it at home for a while, for a couple of months. So then when I went away, I was like very confident in self-administering, but it meant that I could go away for longer than 1 month.
Brilliant.
So that was helpful. But no, I think it's like the baby steps thing. It would be my tip. There's a really good essay by a clinical psychologist called P. Harvey, and it's in relation to recovery after breast cancer. But I think psychologically, there's probably quite a lot that's kind of transferable across different types of cancer. But yeah, I think that was really helpful in terms of, again, managing expectations and being kind to yourself and just building up step by step.
Izzy, those are great words. That's great tips to end the podcast today. Thank you to all of you for being on, for sharing, and, really showing how important it is to hear from each other when we're doing things like traveling the world, adventuring, visiting, finding ourselves after a diagnosis, whether that be, in Cornwall or Romania or anywhere around the world. And for all of you listening, know that you can find your community at shinecancersupport.org. We really look forward to hearing from you. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, do get in touch. Let us know what you think. What should we cover next? Thank you to Radio Facilities for sponsoring our podcast. Thank you to all my guests. And from me, till next time. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
This is not your grandma's cancer show.
Not your grandma's cancer show.